Hey everybody, so this is my stream for today. Yesterday I had a stream where we went and scraped data from this website. Not this data because this is the Moneyline data that I want to look at for this week. But we do have the data for the total lines and the spreads. And so that all is being scraped from, let me pull it up right here. This is the file that I worked on last time to get the scraping to work. So let's test our driver to just pull up the file. Python 3 get data. Alright, and so this is going to be the driver test, and it pulls up the page. And so here's the page that we're looking at. So yeah, line data. Yeah, so basically we're pulling this data. That's week 18, which for this data, they have data sets from 2007 through 2021, and only 2021 is the only season that had 18 weeks in it. So for week 18, there's just that, but for all the other weeks, you get a specific URL here, and then you get a table for each year. And the other cool thing about this data is if you want to download this data, they charge you for it. So for all the data, it costs $264. But that's okay. You could say, I don't want to pay $264. I don't have that, but I do know how to code in Python, and therefore I can just get all the data myself. So we've got all this data, the lines and stuff. Now what we want to work on is we want to write some code that will go and scrape the Moneyline data, because we have the lines, the totals, and the spreads, but we don't have the money line. So we want to get this data, and so we could base it off what we already have. So what we already have is we have this class called Scraper. This object basically goes through and looks and downloads all the data. For instance, the main thing we have here is it just creates an object of type scraper, and then it says for that object scrape everything, and then it paginates through and scrapes all the data for all weeks, and then it saves it in this format. So there's this is inside the data folder. So data, you get a year for each year that we have, and then for each year there's weeks, and then the games are just indexed by week. So like if we click on 4, we see you get road versus home, you get what date it was, the opening spread and closing spread for both the home and away teams, and then the opening and closing total for the game. I mentioned this last time, but when you're doing web scraping, you don't know when the website's going to change. This, I believe, is an error in their website, and they don't mean to be giving away this free data. I think that they don't realize on the site that this page is accessible, because if you just go to NFL odds, well, anyway, I do keep getting this as well. It says request is too big to field, but okay, let's just go to football lines. The football lines, and I'll try to show you what I'm talking about. Lines.com. I mean, that's different, but I bet they want you to pay for it. Access AI picks 60% win rate. Okay, whatever. Thefootballlines.com. Okay, cool. Now we want to look at NFL lines, and then it just tells us about it. Thefootballlines.com gives you archived NFL lines dating back to 2007 for information and entertainment. I'm just trying to figure out if they mean to have that page up or not. Want to be able to quickly see how your team has done against the closing NFL point spread line in week 4 over the last 4 years. No problem, just visit the football lines NFL spread. Yeah, so I don't know. It says you can go visit the page, but there's a login register page, and I don't know. It's just that you get here and you can type in NFL-line/week-3, and then we get this web page. I don't think I should be able to access this web page though, because if we go to downloads, they want you to pay for it, $264. So anyway, that's what's cool. But so when things like that happen, the site obviously might figure it out. They might see this video or stream and say, hey, we don't want to be giving away our data for free, and then they'll lock it up or change how the website's structured. So when you're scraping data, the number one thing is you want to make sure that you have all the data that you could possibly need, and then just get it down into files. And then once you have it in files, you can kind of clean it up and make it look nice later. So this is what I'm doing right here. I have it in files. So now I want to scrape more data. I want to scrape it, instead of being from the lines and the totals page, I want to scrape it from this page. And then, okay, so the question is, how do we do that? So we have the scraper object. We're doing scrape all. Scrape all is just, it goes and gets a new week page for each week. Oh, right. There's this function, scrape week year. So it goes and gets the week page for that week and gets the correct year. And the tables are the same structure. So if we do get table, if we do week page, and we want to get a table for a certain year, I think we can pass in the same object and say get. All right, let's just try. We're going to make a new function down here. We're not going to try to pull up the browser anymore. And we're going to make a new test. And this test is going to be test odds page. I'm going to set it to 1 so it runs. And then week page. So, okay. We will probably have to add a type. So, odds type. And then if okay, now we're going to make a function for checking whether odds type is valid. Odds type should be string, valid types, and it could either be lines. If spread and total, or straight up. So I guess we could just say spread underscore total. And the other one is odds. Okay, and then for odds in odds type, if odds not, oh, we could just say if odds type not in valid type, we're gonna raise an exception, and we're going to say that odds type is not a valid odds type. Valid odds must be one of, and then we could print type type for type I for I in valid odds types in valid types. All right. Oh, that raises an exception, but we could just say valid is equal to, assume it's true. We could actually get rid of this exception and just say that valid is equal to false if it's not in there, and then we return valid. Now, if check valid odds type of odds type is equal to false, raise exception, odds type invalid, must be one of, and then in here we just put I for I in, damn it. Alright, so check valid odds type. Okay, we actually are going to put the exception back. Yep. Here we want to raise an exception that says, just typed this stupid thing, odds type not valid, must be one of I for I in valid types. Alright. Okay, so weak page, we want to pass in the odds type. We want to make sure the odds type is valid. Probably should assign that to self. Equals odds type. Alright. Now say self.url equals this. URL ending is equal to that if odds type is equal to spread underscore total. Let's do lines. Come on, brother. Calling that lines. Alright, odd type equals lines, that's ending. Otherwise, if the odds type is odds, NFL odd, otherwise slash week dash week no. Oh, NFL dash odds type. Well, that's about as easy as it gets. You want to make the default odds type to be lines. All right. Now, get URL doesn't need to be changed. Get table is good. So now in table we do get games. I don't think anything should be different. Games is equal to class game, retrieve data. I mean, this might just straight up work. We might just have to change the URL. Okay, let's change the default to odds. Now, test odds page equals 0, test table title, test scraper, test row. Let's test row. What do we got? For odds, oh, line 73. If not 4. Alright. Weak page object is an attribute get tables. Test row get table, not tables. Alright. w.getTable. Let's get 2017. Let's just get 2021. So it's the most recent, easiest to verify. Should be the odds. Wow, great. Just make sure this is right. Full screen. What do we want? Road open odds, road close odds, home open odds, home close odds. Yeah, that's all you can ask for. And then the home score. Alright, so this should probably put it into a dictionary. Nope, don't want to close all of those. So now we tested row, test table title, test scraper, scrape all for year and years. We probably want to add a scrape all function. os.path.exists. Yeah, we probably want to scrape both. Scrape, so we can scrape a certain week and year with that function. Info is equal to table.getData. So table.getData. Golly. So maybe we could do test table. Alright, let's comment this. We could say table.getData. Print that, because that should return a dictionary. Alright, and then only test table should be true. Save it. Now let's run it. Week page has no attribute get tables. 205 get table. Table, missing argument year. There we could just say get all tables of 0. Home score. Yep. So that's the dictionary we want. In Scraper, when we say we want to get a certain year and week, page is equal to week page of week. For odds type in lines odds. So we want to say for each odds type in there, do this week page of week, and then odds type is equal to odds type. So now for each odds type we're doing this. Now if not os.path.exists, I'm going to make that path if it doesn't exist. Dang it, just a second. Damn it. Sorry, I spilled my coffee. So, for each odds type, we want to do this. Now this, get that out of here. put it up there. All right, so for each odds type and odds type, do the page table equals page.get table of year, info equals table.get data. So the info variable here is just a list of dictionaries with data. And then we could say for C item in enumerate info, week slash C dot JSON. The tables should be in the same order. So C underscore odds type dot JSON. And then this is the data that I finished scraping yesterday. I don't know if I showed it yet. But in the data folder, there's a folder for each year. You can go to the year you want. Now there's a folder for each week. Go to the week you want. You can select a game, the 8th game for that week. It just means it was the 8th row in the table. And so let's go to that game and we get all these categories for each. Kind of the teams that we're playing, date, road open, road close, opening. Spreads and totals, open and close. Spreads for each team. So yeah, that's all the data you need. Now, this is with the version that I did yesterday. So for today's version, instead of just saving like 0.json, it will save 0 underscore odds.json and then 0 underscore lines.json. And then later in my next stream, I will write some code that goes up and cleans all this data. Again, when you're web scraping, the thing you want to do is just get the data in there. So, now another thing it's doing is when we say scrape all, it's saying that if the year and week folder isn't in there, go ahead and do it. But if the year and week folder is in there, don't do it. So it's going to skip over all of these. So the thing is, I'm going to redo this, and here's why I'm going to redo this. I want to have just one function that scrapes everything. If we want to go back and look at this again and do this again, if the site's still up with its current organization and something happens where we have to go get all the data again, I want it to all be in this function scrape all. I don't want to have two different functions saying scrape all odds and then scrape all lines and then saving them separately. So I just want to say scrape all, and then scrape all should get everything for odds and lines. And that's because scrape all calls the scrape function, and the scrape function I changed to where it was just this. Now it says get everything for odds and lines and save it with a file name according to the odds type. So let's go ahead in here and delete all of the files. I guess it takes a sec because there's a lot of them. And then once we delete the files, we can go ahead and scrape again. Come on. This should be a pretty short stream because we're almost done. And here, I hope to just set up the scraper, and if the scraper works correctly... Oh, gotta go, my water's boiling. So I'm just gonna run it here, check to make sure... Well, first I'm gonna exit out of these Chrome driver windows. Now the data folder is empty. Now, gonna take test table off and I'm gonna turn on scrape, save, and let's run the file. And this will be the end if it's scraping correctly. I'm gonna stop the stream and just let it scrape. Before it does that, I'm gonna go make sure that it's scraping correctly. So it still prints everything every time it scrapes. Okay, now let's go look at the data. 2007 week 1. If we look at game 0, it's New Orleans at Indiana. 0 for the lines is New Orleans at Indiana. Yep. And 0 for the odds is New Orleans at Indiana. Let's just check one more. Let's go to 12 odds. Detroit at Oakland and 12 lines is Detroit at Oakland. So yep, it seems to be working correctly. Now we have all of the odds and lines for every NFL game from 2007 through 2021. We've got it from this site. And this site charges you $264 if you want to download this data. 2007 to 2022, odds and lines stats in Excel. Okay, $264. But if you know Python and if you like to code, you can get $264 worth of data for free. Or, and yeah, so yeah, this is basically it. This is all I have. Once I have this data, I'm going to go ahead and put it in a repository on my GitHub. And then you can go get the data. I'm going to do one more stream where I clean up the data, take everything from JSON files and put it into a single Excel file, like is being sold here. And then I'm going to put it on my GitHub. So you can go get that Excel file. That's $264. You can go get it for free. And then from there, I'm hoping to do some analysis that will give me an edge in betting on games. And the edge I'm looking for, just to recap, here's the edge that I want to find. I want to find how the line is going to move before the game. And so then you're wondering, okay, so why is that useful to me if I find how the line's going to move before the game? Let's go to last week's. And to my example, Commanders versus Cowboys. I covered this on the last stream, but I'm just going over it one more time. And so if you know how the line is going to move, you can basically get a zero risk bet on the game. So when the line opened on November 14th, which was 2 weeks ago today, it was minus 435 in favor of the Cowboys. So if you had bet that game in favor of the Cowboys, let's just pull up or we could just do this in Python. All right, so you bet on the Cowboys minus 435. Say you bet $500. All right, so let's do a little more than 500. Let's bet. Yeah, let's just bet. This is a good example. So we're gonna bet $500 on the Cowboys. Let's do $515 so we'll make a little bit more money if the Cowboys win. $515 means that this bet pays out $118. Now, if you knew the line was going to move, you could wait for it to move and then bet on Washington down here at, Washington's plus 520. So you would probably want to bet on it when Washington's plus 555 to get good value. But let's just change this again. Say we're going to bet 490 on the Cowboys. That means you get a $112 payout if it wins. Now let's say we're going to take this $520 bet on the Commanders. So you bet $100 on the Commanders to win $520. So Cowboys risk is equal to 100. That's what oh, not 100. Cowboys risk is 490. That's the money I lose if the Cowboys lose. Cowboys payout is equal to Cowboys risk divided by, okay, let's just make a function. Define get payout. All right, result should be loss or win. The risk is how much money you're risking, and the odds is the odds. So get payout, define, get underscore payout. All right, and so we're gonna say if odds are greater than 0, and if result is equal to win, the payout is equal to odds is equal to risk, whatever you're risking, times odds divided by 100. Times odds divided by 100. All right, so if it wins and it's positive, that's the payout. Else payout is equal to the negative of whatever you risked. Now, if the odds are less than 0 and result is equal to win, the payout is equal to minus 100 times risk divided by odds. Okay. And if the result is not equal to win, payout is equal to the minus risk, and then we want to return payout. Okay, so let's get the payout, and let's say that the Cowboys win. The risk was, we risked $490 on minus 440 odds. Okay, and then our other bet we placed was a loss. We placed, let's say, $105 of risk, and this one was plus 520. So if the Cowboys bet wins and the Commanders bet loses, we make a total of 111 minus 105, so $6. Now, if the Cowboys bet loses, local variable payout, oh man, gotta rewrite this function. Oh man. Okay, well, this is taking too long. Basically, the point is if you bet $100 on the Commanders at the end, and $435 on the Cowboys at the beginning, then you would be in a situation where if the Cowboys bet wins, then you make $100, which covers the money that you bet on the Commanders. If the Cowboys or if the Commanders bet wins, you win $520, which covers the 435 that you risked on the Cowboys. So you basically get a no risk bet. My hope is to predict how these lines are going to move so that I can um, bet on lines that have a high probability of moving in my favor. Um, and then once it moves in my favor, cover the line. The obvious risk is I need the model to be good enough so that it can reliably risk or reliably assess when the odds are going to swing, because you don't want to be placing bets thinking the odds are going to swing and then suddenly you have a risky bet on a game that you didn't want. So that's the point of the scraping that I'm doing now. Let's check where the scraping's at. All right, we're up to 2009. Cool. What week are we on? 2009 week 3. Cool. We've got all the lines. Now it's going to go get odds after this. Oh, it's already got the lines and odds for each. Cool. And it's on week 4. Oh, now it's up to week 5. Cool. All right. Well, this thing's going to keep going. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked this stream. And I'm hoping to have a nice repository full of NFL betting data soon. Thanks for watching.